From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
What does it take to go from farm to table?
I'm Charles Denny. Food producers and food buyers come together as part of a networking tour. It's a program put together by the University of Tennessee's Center for Profitable Agriculture. That story from Chattanooga coming up on AgDay.
As record-breaking heat hits the Midwest.
Every one of us is concerned with the wind.
And summer hasn't even started yet. Plus the growth of the renewable diesel industry and where the industry is turning for cheaper feedstocks.
So we're going to continue to soak up a lot of animal fat that way.
An update right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when the name on the cap matches the power of one's purpose. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Soybean crush appears to be on the rebound. The National Oilseed Processors Association releasing its monthly report saying its members crushed 178.4 million bushels of soybeans last month. That's up more than 5% from April and up slightly from last year's record for the month. Meanwhile, soy oil stocks at the end of May are expected to total 1.77 billion pounds. That would be down more than 3% from April and more than 5% below a year ago. Some of that soy oil being turned into renewable diesel, and USDA's Foreign Ag Service indicates the landscape for U.S. renewable diesel production has changed dramatically the past 2 decades. Federal and state policies are driving that growth. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us. And Michelle, this is also impacting both domestic and international feedstock markets, right?
That's right. Renewable diesel produced from renewable feedstocks like vegetable oils and animal fats has led to increased imports of these products. This includes canola oil from Canada and used cooking oil from China. And this is a good news, bad news story for U.S. agriculture. Renewable diesel production grew to 5.9 billion gallons by the end of 2023. It's been fueled by feedstocks, including soybean oil, other veg oils, used cooking oil, and animal fats. However, used cooking oil holds an advantage in biofuels programs due to its waste product status and low carbon intensity score. As a result, imports have tripled, mostly from China, raising concerns.
All of this used cooking oil, is it actually used cooking oil? Is it palm oil that has gone through some miraculous transformation into used cooking oil? That's one of the things that we're going to be wanting to talk to both CARB and EPA about as we look into the future.
U.S. purchases of Brazilian beef tallow also climbed 377% versus a year ago in the first 4 months of this year. U.S. biofuels makers are turning to these cheaper feedstocks, and in August through October of 2023, about 500 million pounds of beef tallow and pork lard went into renewable diesel fuel.
It's about 80 pounds a head on every beef animal slaughtered and about 20 pounds of every hog slaughtered during that period. I think you can say pretty safely we've added $20 or $30 per head in value on cattle. Maybe up to 50 during the peak of that time frame, just because of that carbon intensity score that renewable diesel made from animal fat has versus soybeans. So we're going to continue to soak up a lot of animal fat that way.
The bigger federal tax credit will also start next year, with tallow and used cooking oil generally more lucrative feedstocks than U.S.-based soybean oil. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Now, what economic impact does the bioeconomy have on the U.S. economy? Biofuels groups, including Growth Energy, commissioning a study to help find out. The report says the sector contributes $210 billion annually to the U.S. GDP. It says the industry supports nearly 644,000 jobs, with average worker compensation totaling $133,000. In addition, the study found that for every job created in the bioeconomy, another 11 jobs are generated elsewhere in the supply chain. Markets on Monday were not factoring in the heat. Nearly 200 high-temperature records could be tied or broken this week as a heat wave bakes the Midwest and Northeast. You can see on this map where things will be heating up this entire week. Brian Abel reports as summer arrives in earnest.
Hundreds of records could be tied or broken this week as extreme heat risk blanket parts of the Midwest and the Northeast. Some cities in the Northeast, including Montpelier, Syracuse, and Pittsburgh, set to experience high temperatures not seen in 3 decades. New York's Governor Kathy Hochul deploying 50 National Guard members to provide heat assistance across the state.
You should consider a limited, prolonged, or intense outdoor activities.
The expansive, long-lasting heat wave fueled by an intense heat dome. Humidity pushing the heat index, how the heat feels, into the low 100s, with relief not expected until potentially early next week. Meanwhile, nearly 15,000 acres in Southern California scorched by the post-fire in just 24 hours.
This is a relatively fast-moving fire. Every one of us is concerned with the wind. That's the single most driving factor of this fire.
Those winds expected to reach as high as 60 miles per hour, forcing evacuation orders for over 1,200 people northwest of Los Angeles. Much of that area will remain under red flag alerts until Tuesday night. The fire's cause still unknown. In Washington, reporting for AgDay, I'm Brian Abel.
Some rain is needed in California and in the Midwest to help cool things off. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht lets us know if any is on the way.
Here's a look at the flooding potential coming up on a Tuesday. So another way that we can kind of look at who is going to get rain is where obviously the flooding potential is highest. And in and around these locations, there are certainly going to be some scattered showers. The other side of things, with the heat that we are seeing dominating 2/3 of the United States, with the what are called air mass thunderstorms, well, it's not showing up on the flooding potential in and across parts of the Midwest between our Tuesday, also a little bit into Wednesday, may get some of those flare-up thunderstorms that could provide some relief from the heat. But in this kind of situation, you get some relief from the heat for about an hour, hour and a half. Sun comes back out and things go right back up to steamy and hot conditions. So on Tuesday, flooding potential is going to be greatest, about 15 to 40% back into Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, down here to the south and to the southwest. Check out near Texas and Louisiana, 40 to 70% chance of a flooding potential. And lots of dads celebrating Father's Day over the weekend. Me as well. Here are Micah and Maylee doing a Father's Day crop survey with their dad, Seth. They all live in western Ohio. Now check out that beautiful sunset behind them. And of course, the smiles all around. I'll have more in your forecast coming up.
USDA releasing the latest crop progress report on Monday, saying that 93% of the corn crop is now planted. That's 1% ahead of the 5-year average. And condition-wise, now 72% rated good to excellent, down 2% from a week ago. Soybean planting also moving toward the finish line, now 92% planted. That's 2% ahead of the 5-year average. 70% of that crop is now rated good to excellent, also down 2% from the previous week. Cotton planting still inching forward, now at 90% done, running about 1% behind, and 54% of the crop is rated good to excellent. Again, down 2% from a week ago, while winter wheat harvest now sits at 27% completed, well ahead of the 5-year average of 14%. It was a pretty dismal start to the week for grains on Monday. We'll dig into what's moving those markets coming up next. And later, people like to know where their food comes from. We'll see how some farmers in Tennessee are getting a chance to move closer to their consumers in the country.
Introducing Unscripted with Tyne Morgan and Clinton Griffiths. Real, raw, and entertaining. A new episode is available every Friday on Farm Journal's YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts.
Agribusiness giant Bayer announcing plans to launch a host of new products in the next decade. The company laying out its pipeline plans during a meeting in Chicago Monday. New products include a broad-acre post-emergence herbicide. It would be the first in 30 years, plus a biotech version of its short-stature corn platform, new rootworm and insect protection technologies, new fungicides and biologicals for pest control, including a black pepper-based bird control. Leaders with the company say there's $34 billion in sales potential. It also says artificial intelligence is helping speed up its research and its ability to find and test new products. They say they expect to deploy 400 to 500 seed hybrids and varieties annually, while introducing 90 to 100 new crop protection formulations over the next decade. Soybeans dropped to start the week and corn and wheat followed. Michelle Rook is back with more on if a recovery could be coming in markets now.
Well, a tough day in the grains on Monday to start the week. Kent Beadle with Paradigm Futures is back with us. And Kent, kind of a bloodbath in the grains on Monday. How much of it was technical selling versus maybe traders looking at this extended weather forecast?
Well, it's both for sure. The large speculator is short the grains, and he's getting shorter. But he has a reason for wanting to get shorter, and that is some of last week's rally was based on the hotter, drier forecast for the Eastern Corn Belt, and those forecasts are now set to moderate sometime around next Sunday and probably for 3-4 days thereafter. And with that moderation in temperatures, there is an increased chance of rainfall. Now, nobody has seen general rainfall in that time period. It's looking more like 30 to 40% chance, and they're going to need it after this week's heat. But just a little cooler and wetter on the 8 to 14 days is what had traders selling.
And of course, they're getting a lot of negative technical signals in this market. Both corn and beans have taken out some major moving averages, haven't they?
Yeah. On Thursday afternoon, we closed corn above the 45, the 50-day, and the 100-day moving averages. We moved back below those on Friday and got a lot of follow through here. We're going to be targeting now the lows from June and maybe even the lows from February on this move lower.
And wheat is following the Matif wheat, or is that these better than expected yields?
We're getting better expected yields in the hard red winter wheat areas. I don't think the yields are better than expected in the soft red areas. It's kind of early, but the excess rainfall that they had earlier this season and some disease pressure has trimmed some of those yields back. But the speculator was very long in Europe, and they've been running here for the exits as we've had some bad technical trade.
So true. Thanks so much, Kent Beadle with Paradigm Futures. We'll have more AgDay coming up. Watch Markets Now with Michelle Rook on the Farm Journal YouTube channel, keeping you updated throughout the day on the markets at the open, midday, and close. Find out what moved the markets today and what to expect the market to do next.
I want to start off taking a look at what's going on with the jet stream. Something we talked about last week for this week is what's called that saddle point, the point between the dominant ridge of high pressure and a trough, a digging trough across the United States. The saddle point is kind of that middle between the two, the ridge and the trough. That is going to be right into parts of Iowa, Minnesota, the Dakotas, back down here to the south and to the southwest. Remember and notice how that matches up with what we looked at with the flooding potential across portions of the United States. The reason for that is we get a little bit more emphasis in the atmosphere, a little bit more stacking in terms of vertical motion, where we get not only rain, but the flooding potential for those locations. The farther east you go, the drier and hotter it will be. Now, as we go into Wednesday and Thursday, and you see that ridge stays there, but our saddle point starts to flex and change more back up here towards the north. So you got the trough right here. That saddle point is going to be right into there. That's why we kind of lose the widespread flooding potential into our Wednesday. Not completely. There's still going to be an area where we're going to see good vertical lift back up across this area. It's just going to be highest back into Canada, and then a little bit more less down here to the south and to the southwest. The map isn't going to change all that much between Tuesday and Wednesday. By Thursday and Friday, we reinforce that ridge. It's not until Sunday and into Monday, Tuesday of next week that we start to kind of break this pattern up and see a little bit more up and down motion within the jet stream. I know I rolled through the jet stream map pretty quickly, but I want to take you all the way out to next Thursday. And you see a U here, and you see a U there. Those two troughs indicate that we're going to start to break down that dominant ridge on the East Coast. It is still going to show up across portions of the United States, but not nearly as heavy or as strong as what we're going to be seeing this week. That's nearly 2.5 minutes just on the jet stream. Yuma, Arizona, that's a dry heat. 103, sunny skies, low of about 73 degrees. Bismarck, North Dakota, high around 64 degrees. You got some evening showers, not as hot as other parts of the United States. Rock Hill, South Carolina, that is a humid 87 degrees. Partly cloudy, low of about 64 degrees.
We have the very latest update on H5N1 and dairy cattle and how it's spreading next. And later, from commodities to selling food, we'll talk about the direct-to-consumer and direct-to-restaurant opportunities in Tennessee, in the country. There are now more than 100 dairy herds confirmed to have H5N1. USDA's APHIS now reporting 102 cases of the virus in dairy cattle, but still in 12 states. USDA researchers also continue to track the spread of the virus, recently releasing a new brief. They report the spread of the virus between states is linked to cattle movement, with further local spread between dairy farms in some states. They believe the spread between the farms includes several factors, including animal movement, other animals on the farm, including cats and chickens, along with wild birds. Researchers also say shared equipment, such as transport vehicles, that is not cleaned between farms could be a risk for disease transmission. However, they say the risk from manure appears low. USDA is teaming up with the University of Wisconsin-Madison to look into all things dairy, the two breaking ground on a new dairy research facility. It will be administered by ARS U.S. Dairy Forage Research Center. It will work in partnership with the university's Agricultural and Life Sciences. The new facility will house robotic milking systems, chambers for measuring greenhouse gas emissions, along with an animal nutrition unit and labs for agronomy and dairy science, complete with a visitor center. It is scheduled to be completed in 2027. In recent years, the farm-to-table movement has accelerated. Up next, we'll tag along as farmers get a chance to partner with their customers in Tennessee, in the country. Agricultural producers looking to sell their harvest to grocery stores and restaurants recently got an opportunity to meet buyers in person. Charles Denny of the University of Tennessee has more on the farm-to-table movement.
If you'd like to know what your customers want, just ask them directly. In person works well. That's the notion of this food buyer tour, organized by UT Center for Profitable Agriculture and the Hamilton County UT TSU Extension Office. Stop one for the group, the Whole Foods Market in Chattanooga, where farmers could talk to store managers.
It gives our producers an opportunity to learn the ins and outs of moving into the wholesale and retail space and kind of any factors that they need to consider before doing that. So whether that's insurance, liability, volume that they would need to provide.
CPA has now done 3 of these tours, Nashville, Knoxville, and now here in Chattanooga. The idea is for ag entrepreneurs to network with potential buyers for their products. Wholesale food staff met with the farmers and expressed a sincere appreciation for agriculture and their need for local farm products. Julie Gunter is here looking for information and new customers. Her family is in the dairy business in Cannon County, and she hopes soon to open a creamery in Woodbury.
Just to identify markets that are looking for farm fresh products is the purpose of the day.
The tour moved on to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Producers got a look at campus dining services, where the staff here sometimes prepares 2,500 meals a day. But they can't feed students and faculty without farm products. Tour organizers say a local university is another potential market for growers.
Yes, now more than ever, these farmers are going to be jack of all trades, from producing the product as well as marketing it and creating and building all the relationships and just doing everything in between. So whatever we can do to help support that process, that's what we love to do.
By day's end, the group made more stops around Chattanooga, and the hope is to have future tours in other parts of Tennessee. Farmers need buyers, and food places need food. And when we get the two together, it can mean success for both. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.